1,000. But before we get to any of that, today or tomorrow is the day when restaurants will be forced by law to put calorie counts on their menus of every dish. Every dish on the menu would have to have a calorie count. Actually, this only applies to restaurants with more than 250 staff. So there's not that many restaurants. We're talking about the big chains, Nando's, Pizza Express, etc. But it's nanny statism. What's it got to do with the government? How many calories I put in my mouth? How much I don't want to know how many calories are in there. Why are you making me look at them? And what is the point anyway? Because not many restaurants have 250 staff. So it's only piecemeal. It's not the whole thing. So why are they doing this? Also in the realm of nanny statism, footballers and reality TV stars, especially from Love Island, as of October the 1st, will be banned from advertising gambling on their social media accounts, on their Instagram accounts. This is something to do with potentially, influencing young people and leading them into bad ways. Well, we're all worried about gambling addiction, but I'm also worried about successful businesses making profits. That's what makes this country run. And most people are able to gamble without becoming gambling addicts. So are we really to curtail big business just for the sake of a few people who fall foul of gambling addiction? I think it may be disproportionate, and it's also certainly nanny statism. Rules and regulations limiting and restricting business. Nobody votes Tory for that, I'll tell you. Why does this Conservative government behave like a socialist government? Let's talk to political commentators, also the UK lead at the Young Voices organisation, Jason Reed. Good evening, Jason.
Good evening, Kevin.
What do you make of this? The good news about these calorie count menus is that you'll probably only come across them if you go to the big chains, as I say, like Nando's or Pizza Express, all those chain restaurants you see in every high street, because these rules only apply to restaurants with more than 250 staff, and not many restaurants have that many workers. But nevertheless, it's like, what's it got to do with the government? How many calories I eat? Why has it decided to enforce upon me this information that I don't want when I go out? The whole nation has lived very happily up until now, not being force-fed the calories in the meals that we purchase at restaurants. Why have we got to have this?
It's hard to know where to start with this. There are so many very obvious problems with an idea like this. First of all, the fact that it won't work because it affects, as you say, hardly any restaurants. Secondly, the fact that the government should not be telling us what to do, what to eat. It's just this nanny state mentality of people in Whitehall, people in Westminster, looking at the rest of the country and looking at people being obese and thinking, well, the reason for that is that they're too stupid to make decisions for themselves. Then there's a lot of very dodgy cherry picking of data that goes on in order to make the obesity epidemic seem like a much, much bigger thing than it is. For example, the way we measure childhood obesity doesn't make any sense at all. When you look at the numbers, this is according to IEA research, it looks like there's a huge drop-off in the number of obese people when they hit the age of 16. It looks like kids are losing lots of weight at the age of 16. In reality, of course, they're not. It's just that we're using completely different standards to measure obesity in children under 16 and in adults over the age of 16. And so you've got these bizarre desires within some parts of government to push this idea that we are in the grip of obesity and that we need to be saved from unhealthy food. And apparently it seems that calories on menus is part of that. This clause, by the way, about it only applying to businesses that employ more than 250 employees, that wasn't even in there at the start. That had to be added in
where that
at a
came
later
from,
point.
yeah.
It had to, yeah. The government only added it in when they realised that if they didn't add it in, they were going to be putting a lot of small family-owned businesses in a very, very difficult situation indeed, because, of course, this is coming in alongside other regulations to do with online advertising, banning advertising of foods that the government decides is too unhealthy. And so that would have affected, for example, my mother, who runs a small baking business out of her own kitchen and sells the cakes online. Are we now saying that she shouldn't be allowed to post on Instagram pictures of the cakes she sells, or that she should have to put the number of calories next to a Victoria sponge that she sells online? It's ludicrous. This is not, as you say, this is not what people vote Tory for, and they are going to find that out at the ballot box if they're not careful.
It's nanny statism. It's big statism. And as I say, as far as I'm concerned, and I'm sure millions of other British citizens agree with me, what I eat is nothing to do with the government, and what the calories I choose to imbibe are nothing to do with Boris Johnson and his nanny state pals. I mean, I realise that what I'm saying here is possibly controversial, but I don't think it is. Footballers and reality TV stars, especially from Love Island, as of October the 1st, will be banned from advertising gambling on their social media accounts, particularly on Instagram. Now, you know, I know that gambling addiction can be a terrible problem for some people, but I'm uneasy about the idea that, this can be a bit of a problem for some people. Let's immediately smash business down. Let's slam a load of rules and regulations to prevent them from making such healthy profits. Let's stop them going about their legal business, trying to make money, trying to make profits in a capitalist country, because, you know, out of 1,000 gamblers, 2 people might develop a problem. I just think it's disproportionate, and I think it's more nanny statism.
It is, both on obesity and on gambling. This is textbook nanny statism and virtue signalling from the government. And it's the same kind of thinking that we see with green policies, and we see it with food and with lifestyle, with gambling and everything as well. It just comes from a place of wanting to be seen to take action rather than actually achieving any results. There's no science, there's no evidence at all that shows that putting calorie counts on menus, for example, is going to make people thinner. And in fact, what must you think of people who are overweight if you think that something as simple as that is going to cause them to lose weight? Of course not. The causes of people being obese or overweight are much more complex than that. And it's much the same thing with gambling. The government wants to be seen to be doing something about gambling. It doesn't actually care very much about the results of that, because if it did, it would be investing in things that make a difference, such as investing in services that help people who have gambling addictions. That would be a sensible thing to do. What's not a sensible thing to do is this kind of virtue signaling, which harms business, as you say, harms the free market, harms investment in our country. Because if you're running a big international company, are you going to want to invest in Britain at the moment, when all these laws keep popping up out of nowhere to regulate your advertising and make your life more difficult? I'm not sure that you would. And then for you and me as the consumers, it means that we have to live in this kind of sanitized bubble where we don't have any food advertised to us, we don't have any gambling advertised to us, just in case we slip into addiction. It's unclear where this slippery slope ends. You can make this argument about anything. You can say that anything is dangerous for a small minority of people if they abuse it. It's not the government's place to be coming in and interfering in this way and banning people from advertising their products in the way that they want to.
It's so vague and nebulous as well. As I say, I was surprised to see when this rule came in that suddenly it only applies to restaurants with more than 250 staff. That came in from nowhere. So as we were saying, Jason, what we're talking about there really is just the big high street chains, Pizza Express, Nando's, etc. The other get out clause apparently is you won't have to say how many calories there are in today's specials. In fact, any dish on the menu that has been on the menu for less than 30 days, there are no rules about. So it's a bit scattergun, isn't it? You know, it's not exactly a comprehensive policy that's going to give everyone the calories in the food that they eat. And a good thing too, as far as I'm concerned, because the less of this, the better. Because I do know people who've been to restaurants that have already got this system going, and they say it's a killjoy. You know, people just going, oh, I better not have that. That's got a bit too many. You know, Sunday roasts, for example, come in with a lot of calories. Now, that's not going to help pubs if they have to start saying how many calories are in this roast beef and vegetables and Yorkshire pudding. So it's all over the place, isn't it?
This is the problem when you try to centralize such a fundamental, basic decision, such as what are we going to have for dinner. You try to make that decision on behalf of the country, which is what the government's trying to do. They're trying to choose from a menu for us. They're trying to influence our decisions. And those kinds of policy centralizations are always going to be scattergun. They're always going to be all over the place. I can tell you exactly what's going to happen after this rule's been in place for a while. The restaurants will start to learn the trick of the trade, and they'll change the recipe ever so slightly, and they'll have a lot of specials every day so that they don't have to have the calories on the menu. If you've gone out to Pizza Express or something for dinner, you're not going to change your choice based on seeing how many calories are in the pizza and think I'll have a salad. You're going to have the pizza. That's what you've gone there for. It won't make any difference at all. It's just this patronizing nanny state mentality that they think we need this kind of help to learn that a pizza has calories in it. We don't. If we eat a pizza, it's because we want a pizza, and putting calories on the menu isn't going to change that.
I know what I'm going to do next time I go to one of these restaurants. I've never been to one yet, but when I do, I'm going to pick the dishes with the most calories and see if I can get to sort of like 20,000 for one night. That would be useful, wouldn't it? Jason, great to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. That's Jason Reed, political commentator.